All right, we are back. You know, I use the word thrilled a lot to talk about guests we have on the show, and I don't want to overdo it, but I am going to go to the well once again. I'm thrilled to welcome our next guest, which I got to give the Wolf credit for rounding him up. I'm a riding in the back seat on this one, but I'm pretty happy about it. From the Fantasy Footballers podcast. Now, if you go on iTunes, some of you guys that listen to podcasts may use this little company called iTunes. If you look up fantasy football, these guys pop up often first. Now, I looked it up today, and they popped up a disappointing third. But generally speaking, these guys pop up first when you search for fantasy football. And so we're welcoming Mike Wright, the Hitman, to the podcast for the first time. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing well, fellas. I appreciate you having me on.
Anytime. I got a quick question for you before we go to the script. And that, of course, I got to ask, other than yourself, who's your favorite Hitman? Now, that can be any Hitman nickname or, if you're really into, a specific Mafia Hitman or something, I guess that would count as well.
Sure.
You got a favorite?
Yeah, my favorite would be Bret Hart.
I
the best.
was wondering if you'd go with Bret Hart. Mine would be... Go ahead.
The excellence of execution, the best WWE wrestler of all time.
Yeah, and the sharpshooter, I mean, did you see the WrestleMania when he made Stone Cold Steve Austin pass out rather than submit for the sharpshooter?
Of course.
Good stuff.
Of
good
course.
Stuff. Mine would be Tommy the Hitman Hearns, but Bret Hart would be a close second. Wolf, any Hitmen that you prefer, or are you just kind of riding in our wake here?
He stole Bret the Hitman Hart from me. What an absolute legend. The Montreal Screwjob still sticks with me really, really sour. It's awful. But I love that choice.
That's where the ref, he called the match, except he didn't give up, so Bret didn't realize that he was going to lose.
Bret
Yes,
did not realize. He did punch Vince McMahon in the face after the fight. So
yeah.
And an actual punch, too, not a wrestling punch. Anyway, I digress. Great to have you on the show. We're going to get right into the interview. Wolf, why don't you start things off?
Right, so we're obviously breaking down the NFL draft. That's why we're having you on, debuting our Fantasy Wolves segment for 2018. Again, as Nat said, absolutely thrilled to have one of the biggest names in the industry, one of the ones I respect the most. And to start off draft coverage, we can't really start with anyone other than Saquon Barkley. So he's deservedly considered the clear-cut number one rookie for fantasy football this season. But just how high does he belong? I have him up in my top 5 overall. Am I insane? What are your thoughts on Saquon?
Wow, top 5 overall, you're saying including all positions?
Including all positions. So that means above DeAndre Hopkins, above David Johnson. I know it seems ridiculous, and I might reevaluate.
Mike, you didn't hear him wrong. You heard him right the first time.
No, and look, honestly, top 5 overall, he won't be there for me just because I'll factor in and weigh in, just the proof of actual NFL production. But as far as potential and opportunity, Saquon Barkley is going to be in an unbelievable situation. Mm-hmm. A team doesn't spend the number 2 overall pick on a running back to not give them carries, and his pass production profile is off the charts. Who's he going to compete with up in New York for running back touch? Yeah, Paul Perkins, Jonathan Stewart. It's Saquon Barkley. It's going to be his job. He's going to easily touch the ball over 300 times. He might touch the ball 350 plus times. You're talking a Le'Veon Bell type of workload. The offense should be solid. Eli has, in my opinion, still has some juice left, enough to run a competent offense. And with the pass catching weapons, they're going to be a very dynamic offense and score a bunch of points. That's if you want to have a separator between Saquon and David Johnson. I mean, for one, Johnson's coming off a wrist injury, but the Cardinals offense, what will they look like? Will they be that high-powered offense where DJ was the number 1 running back, but that was on the back of 20 touchdowns? Can David Johnson get anywhere close to that, where Barkley is, in my opinion, going to be playing for an established good offense? So top 5 overall is too rich for my blood, but he's easily a top 10 running back, and I don't think that's really a hot take to say that.
No, not at all. And I think I love what you said is Eli's solid enough. It's a good offense, which is perfect because it's going to move the ball. They're not going to be able to stack it against Saquon. They're going to have plenty of scoring chances for him, but it's not so elite, like as if it was Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, where it's going to be an air show. They've talked so much this offseason, Gettleman and all those new GMs have, about how they want to establish that run-first physical mentality. And who better to do it with than who's labeled as a bigger Barry Sanders. So I'm with you. Top 10 overall isn't a hot take at all. And that's, again, why I'm saying top 5. That's just how much in love I am.
You got to turn the heat up.
He said top 10 running back, Wolf. Like,
oh, yeah,
which he said wasn't a hot take at all. And I agree with him. The Wolf tends to get really excited about stuff, like, really quickly. And then over time, he kind of, like, gets brought down a little bit
I'm not
to
getting
reality.
brought down, Saquon. No way.
Oh, come on, man. What are you talking about? Rashad Jennings could still come back and take carries from him.
I think Mikey really pointed out well, too. Like, David Johnson's the guy that's kind of lobbied right around him. The overall offense for the Giants, I think, is so much better than the Cardinals this year. And those scoring chances are going to be much more plentiful. The boxes will be less stacked. I just think everything about Saquon's situation is flush with fantasy upside. As long as the talent is as generational as the tape suggests, there's no reason he's going to score anything less than a top 5 overall season, in my opinion.
Oh, all right, we're gonna move on. I have so many. I know that I'm not the focal point here, but I have so many things to say that I'll say to you in the future. This is an insanely deep running back class. Some people are thinking it's even deeper than last year's, which was obviously fantastic. Kareem Hunt, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, and so on. Up to 8 backs have legitimate claims to go number 2 after Saquon. If it were up to you, taking Saquon out of the equation, who would you take first?
It's tough there. The tier is unfortunately very close for all the guys after Saquon Barkley. Mm-hmm. You can make the argument for Rashad Penny. In fact, the Seattle Seahawks made the argument for Rashad Penny. I liked his tape. He blows up my production model with what he was able to do with his market share and just overall production. But for a team to take him in the first round, reportedly was willing to take him even higher before they wisely traded back and picked up some draft capital and then still got the guy that they wanted. To take a player in the first round from a small school, that's the confidence boost that fantasy players are looking for. He's gonna touch them. Like I talked for Saquon Barkley about 350 touches. I just made a bet over with one of my co-hosts on the Fantasy Footballers that
I heard that earlier.
Rashad Penny's going to touch the ball 300 times. He's a first-round pick. They want to run the offense through him. It's just going to happen. How successful can he be? I mean, are we talking a Trent Richardson rookie year type of situation where very, very ineffective, but was able to stumble his way into a bunch of touchdowns because he was the only show in town? That's the big question for Saquon. Or I apologize, for Rashad Penny. While Derrius Guice, despite falling in the draft, does remain my number 2 guy, all reports have the fall in the draft being related to. It's weird. The reports are weird. Was there a conflict with him and the Eagles? Were there some off the field situations that we just don't know about yet? But Washington stopped his fall. He's still a second-round pick. The job in Washington is wide open. They have a solid offensive line, and even though he will be relegated to first and second down work primarily because Chris Thompson, Jay Gruden has already come out and said, Chris Thompson's the third down back. Everyone else can basically suck it because this is Chris Thompson's job. But with Guice's talent, ability to have two still catch passes, and Alex Smith is going to check down on first and second down. It's going to happen. So there's still going to be a decent target share, I think, for Derrius Guice. With that team, he's my number 2, but it's not with a large amount of confidence that I say Guice is above Rashad Penny or even Ronald Jones, who landed in a great spot, and Sony Michel, who was a high equity pick as well. It's just his situation's a little bit murkier with what they've done with James White and Rex Burkhead. I know they in past years of recency anyways, they do give a large market share to one guy, so that's likely going to go to Sony Michel, but it still feels a little less reliable say, than
Right, and
Rashad.
the fumbling concerns too.
Yes, yeah,
Obviously,
exactly.
Belichick could chuck him right into the doghouse and make an
That's a
example
great
of his
point.
first-round pick. But it's great what you said there, Guice and Penny. Obviously I have Saquon in his tier by himself, and then I have those two as the tier 2 guys, and then there's tier 3 with Jones, all those other guys, Chubb, that, with the Browns. I have that as kind of its own separate tier, but I do think it's between Guice and Penny for the number 2 job as well. So we're full in agreement there. I have Penny number 2 currently just because, as you said, the volume. I heard that podcast earlier, and I sided with you. I took the over as well on 300 touches. I think he's going to be force-fed. You don't take him or be willing to take him at 18 overall unless you're willing to just turn over the reins to him. Russell Wilson-led offense is always going to produce plenty of scoring chances. I know the line obviously is a concern there, but they added DJ Fluker, who's a pretty mauling run blocker, even if he's not great in pass protection. Dwayne Brown kind of came on last year. Obviously, he was great with the Texans for so many years. So I don't think the line is as dire as people are going to make it out to be. So give me a top 15 offense, close to 300 touches in it. That's currently my second guy, but Guice is right there behind him. And you mentioned Ronald Jones. I mean, he could jump into that tier as soon as we know that he's the guy over Peyton Barber, which he should be. There's a lot of flexibility right now with that third tier to me.
Hey, Wolf,
but
something that you like to take in any and all bets that you've ever participated in?
The over?
The over.
Always.
You're just like 300 touches, the over. How about 400? I kind of like the over. How about 55 touchdowns for Tom Brady in 2022? The over. I love it. Marshawn Lynch, 12 touchdowns. Over.
Take the under. Take the under. Let's do that bet. Rashad Penny, 300 touches.
I got to research that a little bit more. Although all the under bets that I made with you last year, I would just like to point out I won. All right, let's go to number 3 on the interview. Wolf, go ahead.
All righty. So obviously, again, rookies are by far the most important position. So I know these are kind of running backs are the most important positions for rookies. So a little bit running back centric here. But which rookie running back are you most likely to avoid and why?
Though the one I will avoid personally is probably Ronald Jones. His draft capital and the landing spot are very, very nice for fantasy football. I don't know if I can buy into Ronald Jones as a running back. I don't know if he's going to be able to translate a lack of pass catching at all in his college profile is worrisome. His highlights are incredible. Making that SportsCenter top 10. He's going to do that a few times over the course of the season with home run plays. But when you look at those plays for USC, you're going to notice something in that you could probably drive a Cadillac through the hole that he has hit. Right. Are those holes going to open up in the NFL for Tampa Bay? And is he going to be able to break in arm tackle if he has to? There was talk of he put on size for his final season in college. He put on a bunch of muscle. Has he maxed out his frame? These are the things that we just don't know yet. But I do know that the fantasy community is already on fire for Ronald Jones, and I adjusted my rookie rankings accordingly. I can't deny the second round draft capital and the landing spot for Ronald Jones. Just saying for coming into redraft, me personally, I think his ADP is going to be very high, and it's going to be something that I'm kind of just hedging against. I'm shorting Ronald Jones and just accepting the fact that I could be very wrong on him.
No, I think that's a fair point. I love that you brought up the line, too, because, obviously, as you said, USC, the lanes were completely open. And last year, I don't think the Bucs made too many offensive line moves this year. And last year, how often do we see Doug Martin or whoever it was just getting completely stuffed in the backfield? So that contrast could really make a huge difference for Ronald Jones. I'm a pretty big fan of him. I think the talent's great. The touches are going to be there. But that's a really good point about the line. My guy is Nick Chubb, though. I think Carlos Hyde and him built similarly. I think Chubb's obviously the better talent. They didn't take him in the second round with the pick they traded and took on Brock Osweiler's cash for no reason. They obviously are envisioning a role for Nick Chubb, but they also paid Hyde $5 million, so I don't think he's just going to disappear and vanish either. And I think Hyde's a pretty good back. I like what he's done on tape. So to me, that kind of could be a 60-40. And then you got Duke Johnson in there, so it's not going to be any type of receiving role for Chubb. To me, his role is the least clear of all these rookie backs that everyone's excited about. So to me, and especially in a Browns offense, who knows exactly where it's going to go. I could see him taking off this year, but ultimately they've sucked so bad the last couple of years. I need to kind of see it before I believe it. So Chubb's the guy that I'm avoiding out of this class right now.
And I don't blame you for that. It's going to be I agree. Carlos Hyde isn't going to just fade into the shadows like George Clooney in The Perfect Storm. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But we've seen in the past a Todd Haley led offense. We've seen in 2010 multiple running backs on that team. Thomas Jones and Jamal Charles they were both over 200 carries. So it's still possible that Chubb gets that workload. Where I'm saying I'm out on Ronald Jones is because I'm projecting the ADP for him to be very high, while I think there's going to be plenty of players out there who are worried to take Nick Chubb. So I think he will drop to that fourth, maybe even the fifth round, because people aren't really sure what to make of him. And at that point, I think that the gamble on Nick Chubb's talents is going to be worth it for me.
Nice.
All right. I almost want to go off script on this next one just because, I want to know what you think about the quarterbacks in this rookie class, but I'm going to stick to it, and maybe we'll go there. Maybe we won't. Outside of the running backs, the Wolf and I, it's been contentious recently on the podcast. Outside of this running back class, give me two rookies you think might have big fantasy impacts in their first year.
So we're talking just anything but the running back.
Anything but running backs. And I mean, if you want to go deep and go kicker or something, I'll be impressed. But
kickers don't matter.
Well, I was good. I mean, it would have been the hottest of hot takes. But I'm assuming you're going to give me a QB, a receiver, a tight end, something like that. Give me two of them.
Yeah, the tight ends. Unfortunately, my man Dallas Goedert went to a very suboptimal situation, playing behind an elite pass-catching tight end in Philadelphia. So that really sucked watching that happen during the draft. So the names, you got to pivot over to the wide receiver, which has been pretty disappointing when it comes to rookie production. So I'm not expecting anyone to come in and blow the doors open. No true-looking number ones. DJ Moore was my favorite guy, but now he goes to Carolina and has to deal with Cam Newton's passing inefficiencies, and just we haven't really seen him on any kind of reliable level sustain a wide receiver one. Maybe that's a chicken or egg situation where his rookie year, his best passing year of his career, he had Steve Smith, who was an elite pass catcher. So maybe DJ Moore can become that. But once again, that's a large burden for a rookie to have to carry coming into Carolina. So I'm going to pivot away from him. But I'm going to say I really like Anthony Miller in Chicago. I think the landing spot is fantastic. He doesn't have to come in and try and be the number one like DJ Moore. And I say that because I don't think Devin Funchess is a true number one and can respect that kind of coverage. But Allen Robinson certainly can. So Anthony Miller is going to be able to go out and learn without the lights just beaming down upon him. He doesn't have the number one coverage. There's plenty of weapons on that team. A brilliant offensive mind coming in to be his head coach. So I think that Anthony Miller it's possible that he comes in and makes some noise. And then I'm going to the quarterback. I'm going with the number one guy selected in the draft. I love Baker Mayfield so much. I love all the metrics on his accuracy.
Yes.
You cannot, in my opinion, you cannot teach accuracy. You can improve some mechanics and maybe inflate it a little bit, but a guy either has touch or he doesn't have it. I mean, I don't know how many monster Josh Allen quarterback arms I had to see come into Arizona with Logan Thomas, John Skelton. Yeah, they can throw the ball 70 yards in the air, but they can't hit an open receiver. Baker Mayfield can do all that. You guys have talked about Scott Barrett's going to come on this podcast. Get ready for the Baker Mayfield gush fest when he does that. And I'm ready. I will not dispute any of it. And on top of that, yes, I get it. They're the Cleveland Browns. They've been terrible forever. But this is a sins of the father type of situation. This has nothing to do with Baker Mayfield or Jarvis Landry. Those teams sucked. Fine. We have new players, and we have an actual good-looking offensive squad on this team. There's still a bad head coach in charge, but
that's for sure.
They'll move past that. But I think that Baker Mayfield is the piece that this team has been missing, along with the additions of at the wide receiver core and Jarvis Landry, and I'm also including Antonio Callaway, who they traded up for in the 4th round, I believe, who I think is high risk, very high reward for this offense.
Well, just to be clear, I mean, because it seems I'm the only one who's not in on this Baker Mayfield slobberfest. I mean, you know, you said I'm anti.
He's a Josh Rosen.
No, listen, Josh Allen. When you said like how many 70-yard arm guys, I would have taken Mayfield over Allen. I never got the Allen thing. I would have taken Mayfield 3rd though. I'd have taken him behind Darnold and Rosen. Yeah, well, I see you shaking your head over there, Wolf. But listen, the fact is their coach has not won a football game on a Sunday. They play football games on Sundays frequently.
Again, what Mike brought up is a great point, is we don't play in the past. We're worried about 2018 stats, not what they did in 2017, not what they did in 2016. They got Jarvis Landry there. They have a Josh Gordon, whose head is hopefully on straight at this point. You never know with him. Yeah. But you look at that weaponry, and it's fantastic. If he does deliver the ball as he did in college, he's going to be a stacked cast around him. He's got Duke Johnson out of the backfield as well, a good running game. I love Baker Mayfield as soon as he takes over. That's what would be my follow-up, though, is when do you think he takes over for Tyrod Taylor, if at all, this season?
I have my over-under set at 5 games. So
I agree with Mike on that. I agree. I think he's going to be the quarterback sooner rather than later. And they didn't draft him for nothing. I mean, I think he's going to get burned. He's going to get play time. I just think the Browns are terrible, and I think that, you know, you can change all the pieces around all you want. And they have certainly done a lot of reshuffling, you know, kind of like reshuffling the chairs on the Titanic and stuff like that. But they've still managed to leave the guy that's 1-31 in the driver's seat. He's still the captain. I think that's a lot to overcome. Do you remember when the Eagles had that supposed dream team with Mike Vick, like 2011, something like that? They brought in all this talent, and people were coronating them the NFC champions before the season, and it just didn't happen. And they to me, had superior pieces, certainly a superior coach. I think it's just asking an awful lot.
No one's saying these guys are going to be world champions at this point. We're just saying they take a step forward and are actually fantasy relevant.
So both of you guys, while I got you both here on the air, what's the Browns record going to be this year?
6 wins.
I was going to give them 5 wins. The big difference between last year's Browns and this year's Browns is Todd Haley. Last year it was Hugh Jackson, Mr. I don't need an offensive coordinator. And instead of moving forward with that, they bring in one of the best offensive minds of this past coaching generation.
All right.
Absolutely.
So 6 for the Wolf, 5 for Mike. I'm going to go. Yeah. You know what? I was going to say 4, but I'm going to be a man about it. I like the low. I like the under. I'm going to go 3.
Wow.
Here we go.
Wow. Really down on the Browns. Too low. But last rookie question here. The best under-the-radar rookie pick, a.k.a. 2018's Alvin Kamara, will be ...
There's not going to be one. I hate to burst your bubble, everyone. There's no Alvin Kamara waiting, especially when you're talking under the radar, because all the running backs 1st through 3rd, I'm going to include Royce Freeman, everyone is going to be hyped about these guys. The one kind of lower tier guys, and it's actually 2 guys, and they play on the same team, Nyheim Hines for the Indianapolis Colts and Jordan Wilkins. They play a completely different role at the running back position, but that job is actually open, and these are 2 rookies who are not going to get kind of a huge amount of mainstream love. Nyheim Hines is a satellite back. He's a pass catcher. We're talking on Player Profiler. His comp is C.J. Spiller. And now teams have learned that you don't spend a first-round pick on a guy like C.J. Spiller. You wait till the 4th, and you get a player who is athletically gifted like Spiller. It was very dynamic in college. And on top of that, who knows what the Colts are doing at the running back position? They're just acquiring a whole bunch of pieces, and hopefully one of these guys rises to the top. You can't imagine the team is fully locked and loaded for Marlon Mack, who, by the way, I don't know if you guys talked about this, allegedly Marlon Mack was playing with a torn shoulder labrum last year, and he's had off-season surgery. So perhaps that's what happened to Mack when he was trying to be a running back and was just super inefficient. But with bringing back Robert Turbin, at least for now, re-signing Christine Michael, drafting Jordan Wilkins in the 5th round, they aren't convinced that Marlon Mack is the future of this team. And he was playing behind Frank Gore, who Frank Gore is a earned veteran status, but he was not very good for football last year. They just kept giving him the ball. So Nyheim Hines and Jordan Wilkins are 2 rookies that I have my eye on to see if they can make any kind of noise in camp. Hines far more than Wilkins. I'm putting my chips on Robert Turbin to end up being the early down grinder. But Hines, I think, is going to see the field more than people are expecting.
I'm pumped that you said that, too, because I feel like everybody right now is labeling Marlon Mack, huge winner of draft, Colts upgrade line, which is true, but I'm with you. I think it's going to be Turbin, or maybe Christine Michael resurrects himself yet again. Who knows what he's going to pop up next. But I do think that's we call it a value hole here on the fullback dive that's still wide open in my eyes, and I could totally see any of those Colts rookies taking that job completely. I'm not sold on Marlon Mack either, so I'm with you there. And speaking of gaining value, again, everyone's labeling Marlon Mack the guy, but I'm with you. I don't agree. Whether it's a quarterback, that gained new weaponry, or a running back or wide receiver that avoided further competition being added, tons of veterans gain enormous value following the draft. So regardless of whatever position and what order, who do you think are the 2 to 3 veterans who gain the most value based on the draft?
Ooh, gain the most value. Number 1 is Christian McCaffrey, where the Carolina Panthers cut ties with Jonathan Stewart. I fully expected them to spend a decent equity pick on a grinding type running back. Now, Cameron Artis-Payne is still there. Who knows how old Cameron Artis-Payne actually is? Because it changes every day. He's going to get an opportunity, and he can be okay. But if he's going to get the opportunity to be kind of the big grinder back, to me, that says that Christian McCaffrey you can just go ahead and slot 75 to 100 more touches on top of his already enormous workload coming into this year. So I thought that he was an absolute monster of a winner.
And to go on that, too, Norv Turner throws running back 30% over his career, 30% target share to his running back. So all these people saying, no, there's no way he can sustain that, leading the league in targets. I say baloney. I think he can keep riding that huge target share. You add some carries. And Danian Tomlinson came out, too, and said, the guy who played under Norv Turner almost his whole career, said Christian McCaffrey is going to be used to perfection even in the run game. He's going to get out on sweeps and tosses. And that running game volume did take a huge boost. So I'm with you. He's definitely one of my top 3 risers. Full agreement from me.
And then I just lost his name. Hunter Henry to me is a pretty big winner here. Yeah. You have the whispers from the bushes that the Chargers do not want to bring Antonio Gates back, and they have clearly put the hand of favor upon Hunter Henry, who has been one of Phillip Rivers' most efficient weapons of all time. So I love it. I love what the draft has done for Hunter Henry. And, I mean, you got to look. It's going to be gross, guys.
No,
it's going to be gross. It's going to be gross. I'm going to tell you something. Blake Bortles.
Oh man,
Sir Blake.
Sir Blake. Sure, you have knighted him on this show.
Oh, he's huge in London. Are you kidding me? He's like like the Beatles, Oasis, Blake Bortles.
I know they gave him kind of that good attaboy, good job for helping us in the playoffs contract extension, but it's not necessarily one that they can't find a way out of. So there was still rumors of them adding a quarterback in the draft. They didn't do that. They've added weapons through free agency, including Dante Moncrief, and then they added DJ Chark. I mean, they added, if I'm not mistaken, the fastest wide receiver at the combine. I mean, it was an interesting pick, but they're putting their chips behind Blake Bortles to be their guy for the next few years.
Well, I'm not going to support the Blake Bortles with any added further evidence, but just to go on Hunter Henry, who I 100% agree, I'm going to steal this quote from Scott Barrett, who, again, as you said, is coming on Monday. Henry finished 2017 with the 7th most fantasy points per game in 2017 and has hit at least 70 receiving yards or scored a touchdown in 17 of his 25 targeted games, so 68%. For perspective, that's better than Rob Gronkowski over the same time frame, and that's despite having only 44% of the Chargers' tight end targets, which was less than Gates's 54%. So he did all that as the second fiddle to a corpse of Antonio Gates. Like, I agree 100%. He's about to explode and become that this year's Zach Ertz that you get in the round 5 or 6 and is into that elite tier. So
I like how Scott was a wordsmith there and was able to leave out the 2 games where he destroyed you because he didn't get a freaking target.
I love that. Yeah, targeted games. I see.
Yeah, that was solid. Yeah.
Absolutely.
The Wolf rode.
All right, now you want to hit the next one?
I just would like to point out that the Wolf was so high on Hunter Henry last year as well, and he would often neglect to mention like the zero catches on 0 targets as well.
Yeah.
Just change the subject, but that was good wordsmithing. You're right. All right, same exact question, but let's talk about veteran losers.
Ooh, veteran losers. Let me ask you guys. I'm going to turn the tables on you guys because sometimes that's what you have to do when you jump on here as a podcast guest. Who's your biggest loser not named Carlos Hyde?
I think even bigger loser than Carlos Hyde, especially at the running back position, Rex Burkhead. I love Burkhead. I thought he was going to kind of enter the season in that Dion Lewis role, and that seems almost guaranteed to go to Sony Michel. Burkhead could still get some goal line touches. He was very efficient there last year, but at this point, he's when he was looking at 15 to 18 touches a week in that explosive offense, you're hoping for maybe 5 to 7. I don't know, maybe up to 10 a week. But ultimately, he goes from a guy who I was excited to have as my RB2 to maybe an upside bench stash, maybe a guy that gets into your flex because he's still scoring touchdowns. There's a ton more risk, though, with Rex Burkhead. He's a big loser. And then Tyrod Taylor as well. I was pretty high on Taylor's upside. I knew they were going to draft a quarterback 1 overall, but I didn't know it was going to be the most pro-ready one in Baker Mayfield. So I think his leash got a lot shorter. And he's going to be falling. I had him up at my QB 12 or 13. I was really excited about him with the weapons around him, his running ability. Like you said, over under 5 games doesn't feel that unfair for him. So his risk just went up huge by the drafting of Baker Mayfield.
I'm going to throw out Devontae Booker, running back for the Denver Broncos, where you knew the axe was coming for C.J. Anderson, especially given his contract situation where they could get out for – it might have even been 0 dead cap to cut C.J. Anderson, and they were going to have to pay him at least a good chunk of change when it comes to spending on a running back. And just for years, I don't know why they don't appreciate C.J. Anderson and what he has done for that team, being the best running back on the team since he entered the league. But now they just, in his 1,000-yard season last year, they just throw it to the garbage. Okay, fine. But there was also rumors that you're like, they're doing that because they want Devontae Booker to be their primary guy. They spent, I think it was a 4th-round pick on him 2 years ago. He's going to be the guy. He's got pass catching in his arsenal. And then in the 3rd round, they take absolute production monster Royce Freeman from Oregon, who comes in and can do everything. Maybe you don't think he's the most dynamic pass catcher, but he can do it, and he can do it pretty well. And he's a grinder between the tackles. John Elway came out and said, we need a thumper. So we went out and we got one. And I don't know how eventually Royce Freeman doesn't turn into a 3-down running back for this team. So I'm extremely bullish, very high on Royce Freeman, not only for this season, but for dynasty rookie drafts. He shot up my draft board once his landing spot was decided.
Absolutely. Chris Carson, too, I think we got to label as a loser.
Oh, he's gone. The Chris Carson thing was so bizarre. I mean, he's a 7th-round pick. He was like the second to last person taken in the draft. I don't know why people thought one good game gives him any kind of job security. You saw what the team did to Thomas Rawls. They don't care about Chris Carson.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, if Rashad Penny's going to hit that 300 touch total, it means Carson's not touching the field, and I think he will. So I'm with you there.
If you're not talking about guys that are directly affected by, rookie pickups, I would say my biggest loser is Derrick Henry. But Tyrod was also right at the top of my list. And that's not a ringing endorsement of Baker Mayfield, but I can see which way the wind is blowing for the Browns, and I don't think Tyrod keeps that job more than 4 or 5 weeks.
The trade for Tyrod, I talked about on my show. I had no clue why people thought it was good for the Browns, just because you knew they were going to take a quarterback at the 101. Why would you give up a 3rd-round pick for a veteran to come in and just be just a dead man walking? He's just holding the job. He's keeping the seat warm for their rookie when he's ready to come in 5 or 6 games. To give up such an equity pick for your veteran backup quarterback whose contract is over after this year was a shocking thing for me. I think if, let's say, the team wanted to move forward with Tyrod Taylor as their starting quarterback, that would be fine. I think Tyrod is decent. So this is not an attack on Tyrod Taylor as a player. It's an attack on the Browns general manager making a move that I thought was, you're just throwing a 3rd-round pick into the garbage so you can have a veteran backup. But those guys are everywhere.
Well, now I've heard everything. Now you're going to attack the Browns general manager right here live on a podcast? I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. Wolf, rebuttal? Anybody want to jump in and defend the Browns front office?
1-1's just been so great. Yeah, let me just jump in and get their back real. Yeah, definitely.
All right, that takes us to the rapid fire or no huddle offense portion of the program. I'm going to throw out a couple. I want to hear you respond. Wolf, I wouldn't mind if you responded briefly, as long as it's just going to be short, punchy answers. This is no huddle.
Yeah, I got you. Rapid fire. I got you.
Rapid fire, which sometimes leads to tangents, but let's try to stick to rapid fire. You ready, Mike?
Yep.
All right. Who should go number 1 overall in the fantasy draft?
Le'Veon Bell.
Wolf?
Todd Gurley.
Mike was correct. It's Le'Veon Bell.
Yes!
Question number 2. We fight about this every week. What early round draft picks, round 1 through 3, is going to ruin someone's fantasy season? And this is the person that drafted them, not someone else's fantasy season. Who's someone you're going to take with one of these high picks that you're going to regret mightily? Rounds 1 through 3.
Oh, man, I think this one's tough for me to say the name because I actually think that he's going to have a fine fantasy season. But I'm looking at Fantasy Football Calculator for the ADP. Derrick Henry is currently going at the back of the 2nd round. I like Henry. What's that?
Wow. I'm shocked.
Yeah, I know. I'm shocked about it too. I think Henry, if you are able to get him in the 4th round, you're going to be very happy with the return on that production. But if you are going to take Henry in the 2nd round and think you're getting top 10 numbers at the position, I think you're going to be very disappointed.
Wolf?
I can't argue that one. I think I didn't realize his ADP was that high. I was going to say, if you spend your 1st-round pick on I'm just not on the Julio Jones train. I think he always has some sort of little hammy pull. No matter how many targets he's getting, he never scores. I think there's just so many other running backs. If you're going to pass up on one of these workhorses for Julio Jones in the 1st round, I think you're going to sorely regret it.
I just want to say
he still finishes as a top 5 guy every year.
Yeah, but it's based on like 3 games. It's based on like 3 games.
We talk consistency a lot on the Fantasy Footballers, and Julio Jones is more consistent than people give him credit for.
All right, fair enough.
I just want to say I agree with both of you guys' picks wholeheartedly, and I'm shocked that Derrick Henry is going end of the 2nd round ADP. I had no idea.
I don't know if he's going to end up there when real drafts are going on, but I mean, this is the ADP I have to go on.
I mean, I'm just really genuinely surprised. And I agree with your take on it completely. What mid-round draft pick is going to win people titles?
Oh, Larry Fitzgerald is going to do it again.
Love it.
Thank you, Josh Rosen, right?
Yeah. Oh, wait, I don't care who it is. If Sam Bradford's actually healthy, that's fantastic.
That's
because
he's a very good.
Yes, that's the big thing with Sam Bradford. But when he's on the field, you can't argue with what he has been able to do the last couple of years. He's been a very good quarterback. The tape of him in Minnesota against the Saints is, I mean, that's one of the better games that you'll watch. He is so accurate, so poised in the pocket, making things happen, just absolutely tore the Saints apart. But you're right, it is a big if. Luckily, Josh Rosen is now the insurance policy, but Larry Fitzgerald yet again will be disrespected just like he was last year when he was an absolute reliable wide receiver stud for your teams. And he's going to go in that, 5-6 range again because people are just sleeping on the old man.
Wolf?
Absolutely, but the guy I'm going to be going for in the mid-rounds at receivers because I just love to chase upsides, Juju Smith-Schuster, especially with Martavis Bryant traded away. His ADP is, 55-ish right now, which I think is an absolute joke. I think Juju's going to blow up and be, even wide receiver 1 right now with the target share that he's about to see. Love Juju, and I love J.J. with the no running backles. I think after such a horrid year last year, he's going to end up being a screaming value and have a season that we all kind of envisioned last year.
All right. We call them penny stocks. Most people call them late round lottery tickets. Give us 1 or 2 guys that you're going to get on the cheap that you really just have to have.
Oh, man. The guys who could be cheap yet again. And by the time, I'll say this, by the time drafts again wants to roll around, I'm not sure how cheap he is, but he's really cheap right now, and that's because he keeps getting himself into all kinds of legal troubles. That is Robbie Anderson.
Oh yeah,
from the Jets.
Said he was gonna bone a cop's wife or something.
Yeah, look, I am. This is not a support of the man's actions. This is simply talking about the game of fantasy football, and he was a waiver wire stud last year.
Yeah.
I think people are going to be scared of him in the drafts. Even if he ends up serving a 2-game suspension or something like that, then he's just going to be even cheaper in the drafts, and you just take him with one of your last positional picks. And you have McCown is still there, and I think that Sam Darnold, I agree. Sam Darnold is a good quarterback. So regardless of who's throwing the ball, one of those 2 guys, I think Robbie Anderson's going to be able to put up fantasy numbers yet again.
I think maybe we should just go all in on that kind of theme and maybe grab Zay Jones too while we're at it. We're looking for people that have had some uncomfortable run-ins in the offseason. Wolf,
the problem is Robbie Anderson can catch the ball.
No, listen, I'm completely kidding. Robbie Anderson is a supreme talent. Zay Jones is a mediocre player who just goes around getting in naked incidents in the offseason. Wolf, penny stock, who do you have to have? Give me one.
Got to be Tarik Cohen. I think Matt Nagy has labeled him earlier, an offensive genius. I think he's going to really know how to use Cohen, who just flash talent week in and week out, and only an idiot like John Fox. We talked about cement shoes, Nat, last week.
We did.
John Shoes was a absolute cement shoes weighing down Tarik Cohen, and I think Nagy will be the exact opposite, the fantasy HGH to really propel Tarik Cohen and use him to his fullest potential. Absolutely love the explosive upside he brings he's going after pick 100 right now, which I think is an absolute joke. I have him in my 60s, and I think I might even be too low.
The single most important move fantasy owners can make in 2018 that will win them a title is ... Fill in the blank.
I'm going to go with, once again, buy into rookie running backs being able to be fantasy producers immediately. I know it's not we feel like after the past recent years that this is just an absolute shoo-in that rookies always produce. But that's not always true, but it's true yet again this year. These rookies, you talked about how deep the class was, and I completely agree with that. I think that there's a lot of great running backs here. They came in, they were drafted with high capital by NFL teams. They're going to get massive opportunity, and on top of that, they're good running backs. So opportunity plus talent, that's how you get it done in fantasy football. So I'm not going to be scared to go all in on these rookies if they're coming to me at the right value.
Wolf?
And that was kind of our stock tip earlier was do not be afraid of the unknown, because that's what happens with rookies. People just haven't seen it and they don't touch them and they miss on these huge values. To build on that too, last week's stock tip was building a stable of horses and just loading up and trying to get 3 absolute workhorses into your lineup if you play with the flex. I think is incredible value with the rookie running backs always discounted. I think if you can get 3 of your first 5 picks as true workhorses that end up panning out for you, your team is set up for massive success. The 3-horse attack, I like to call it.
The 3-horse attack is what we call it on the dive. Let's wrap things up with your boldest prediction. Now, I want to be clear. This could be a fantasy prediction. this could be just a real football prediction. Like if you really like the Dolphins to run the table and go 16-0, and throw that out there. I'd love to hear that as much as any fantasy prediction. But give me your boldest prediction for the upcoming season, and then a reminder of after the Wolf gives his, we'll talk about where people can find you and interact on social media and stuff. What's your boldest prediction for the upcoming season?
Oh, so we're igniting the flamethrower just to watch everything burn?
Yeah. We'll have you on in like 3 or 4 months or 6 months even, and we'll discuss it.
All right. Well, I'm going to throw it out here.
Let's do it.
Deshaun Watson and Carson Wentz are going to make fantasy players very sad with the draft capital that they end up spending on them.
Okay. It's a bold prediction, and that's one that's probably like a rock in the Wolf's shoe. So, I'm glad to hear that. We believe in waiting on quarterbacks, of course, but we do love Deshaun. Wolf, bold prediction?
So let's go to the opposite end there, quarterback. And let's say if those guys disappoint you, I hope you take the late round plunge on Pat Mahomes, who I think will be a top 5 quarterback with that cannon arm. The surrounding talent is absurd. So if you miss on Deshaun Watson, make sure you get Pat Mahomes late because he's going to explode this year.
Hey, Wolf, real quick. Over under 6,000 passing yards, Baker Mayfield.
Take the over.
Over. Always bang the over.
Mike, where can people interact with you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at FFHitman. I'm on the Fantasy Footballers podcast. Please check us out. We're 2 times a week right now and 3 in July. And then once August hits, we are 5 times a week. So we are here for all your fantasy football podcast desires.
You're like a workhorse back 5 times a week, man. That's bell cow.
I got to carry. You got to carry sometimes.
I love it. No, man, it's been great having you on the show. We really appreciate it. Keep up the good work. Can't wait till it's back to 5 days a week for you guys. We'll get to hear you guys every day, and obviously we all get super excited when football season starts rolling around. So thanks once again, man. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Of course, fellas. Thank you.